Hi guys, welcome to another video by Optionables. My name is Saket and in this video we are going to know more about Adani Group shares. Adani Group shares has been in news since Sucheta Dalal wrote a post or a tweet about Adani Group shares and later 3 FBI accounts were also banned holding Adani Group shares. So in this video we are not going to discuss whether to buy or sell Adani Group shares. Rather what we are going to do is we are going to check facts. So we are going to present you facts and later you can decide whether you can buy or sell Adani Group shares. So in this video we are going to have 3 sections. First we are going to look at the fundamentals of the company as well as the financials. Second we are going to look at the shareholding pattern of the company. And finally we are going to give out our opinion or Optionables opinion about the same. First, we are going to look at the financials as well as fundamentals of the company. Adani Group shares, last year on an average, everything has surged around 500%. And some shares have also surged close to 10 times or 1000%. So what we have to look at now is, are these valuations or are these stock price surges justified? For the stock price to go up, the underlying business has to post good sales growth as well as profit growth for the business or the stock price to go up in the longer run. So now we are going to take 6 publicly listed companies of Adani and we are going to see how has been the performance financially in the past 3 years, and we will also look at what the stock price has done for the same. So first we have Adani Enterprises. The sales growth 3-year compounded is 3%. 3-year compounded profit growth is 13%, whereas last year alone, 1 year, the stock has surged 920%. So next we have Adani Total Gas. The 3-year compounded sales is 7%, 3-year compounded profit is 44%, but last year alone, the stock has surged almost 1100%. Third, we have Adani Transmission. The 3-year compounded sales growth is 36%, profit growth is 3%, whereas last year alone the stock has surged 625%. And next, Adani Power. So Adani Power, the 3-year compounded sales growth is 9% and profit growth is 38%, whereas last year alone the stock has surged 270%. And coming to Green Energy, the sales growth compounded is 28%, profit growth compounded is 54%, but the share price has surged 250%. And finally, the last company, which is Adani Ports, the sales growth is around 3%, compounded profit growth is around 10%, but the stock price has surged almost 127%. So what we see here is all the Adani companies have performed exceptionally well. So 5 out of 6 publicly listed companies of Adani have a market cap of over 1 trillion rupees or 1 lakh crore. So now we are going to look at both the perspective supporting these valuations, as well as we will also look at a perspective where we find this valuations to not be justified. So first, how do we find this valuations justified? So the thing is, it's not the first time we are finding companies trading at 150 or 200 PE ratios. Before we have had Amazon, Tesla and everything which are trading at 150-200 PE ratios, and over time they have justified their valuation due to high growth. But the question to be asked here is, Adani is not in a new business. So Adani is already in a pretty stagnated business. So power business or a gas business is a pretty matured one and a stagnated one. So now you might argue, how do you expect the exponential growth rate what Amazon and Tesla had to Adani to get the same growth rate? So that is pretty hard. So next, when we question about the competitors. So when we see the competitors, Amazon and Tesla had no real competitors. But Adani Power, for example, if you take Adani Power, it has equal competition from Reliance Power, equal competition from Tata Power, NTPC, and there are Jindal Power. So there are so many companies which are equally as big as Adani. So what is this differentiating factor which Adani Power has that it can justify such a high valuation compared to all these power companies? So what more can Adani Power do which these power companies can't do? Same if you come to Adani Gas, what more Adani Gas can do which Reliance can't do? So these are the questions you have to ask and see whether the valuations are actually justified. I am not going to give any suggestion as to whether the company is overvalued or undervalued. So you just think about it yourself. So you question and you ask about it yourself whether the valuations of 200, 150p is justified when all other power companies are trading at a PE which is way lower, some are around 20, some are around 10. So when they are trading at such a PE ratio, how is this particular company trading at a valuation of 150, 200 PE is justified? So now we come to the second section, which is the shareholding pattern. In India, we have a rule that more than 75% of the publicly listed shares can't be held by the promoter, which means Adani Group in India can only hold max up to 75% of the shares. Now, if you look at the shareholding pattern of all other stocks of Adani, so you see that the DIIs are not really interested in owning Adani Group shares. There is very small amount of domestic institutions holding Adani Group shares. So you might now also argue that so these companies will be holding Adani Group shares because Adani Group is a part of mid-cap index. On your screens, the charts of shareholding pattern should be visible now. So you can look at the percentage owned by the promoter, foreign institutions, domestic institutions and public. So now you can see that domestic institutions have little or no interest in owning Adani Group shares. They have small amount of share ownership, somewhere ranging from 0.8% to somewhere close to 2 to 5%. But the point here is some domestic institutions end up owning Adani Group shares because it is part of the mid-cap index. So if I am making a mid-cap index fund or if I am making a mid-cap ETF, even if I don't want as a domestic institution, I will have to end up buying Adani Group shares because it is part of the mid-cap index. So this way, some of the domestic institutions end up owning Adani Group shares. So I am not trying to tell here that no domestic institution is interested in owning Adani Group shares. All I am trying to tell is the data suggests that most of them are not interested or they have very little holding in Adani Group shares. So now we come to the second major chunk of Adani Group shareholders, that is FIIs and FPIs. So you can see that around 15 to 20% of the company is held by FIIs and FPIs. So the question here is, who are these FIIs and FPIs? So now if we go and look at any foreign institutions, what do you expect from a foreign institution? Let's say there is a foreign institution, they will have some amount of equity holding in US, some amount of equity holding in UK, some amount in India, some amount in China, so they will be well diversified. So now let's say it is a purely India based fund, right? It is not investing in any other country, it's a foreign institution who is purely investing in India. So now what do you expect from these funds? They will have some amount in Reliance, some amount in HDFC Bank, Infosys, TCS and Adani. But what if I tell you there are many funds, almost close to 6 to 7 funds, which have almost 95% plus of their portfolio owned only in Adani Group shares. So this raises a suspicion, right? So which foreign institution have you seen having 95%, over 95% of their holdings in a single company share or in a single group share? So this obviously raises some suspicion. And one more part to this is 3 of these funds have the same address and none of them have a website also. So now are these funds or are these foreign institution funds actually legit? So that is the question to be asked. And one more thing is together they own almost close to 60,000 crore plus Adani Group shares, which is almost 7 to 8% of the total Adani Group shares market cap. So you might ask, that is quite okay, but what is actually raising the suspicion? What is more raising the suspicion is when you are a foreign institution and you have got 1000% return in a particular company in single year, won't you be at least selling one share? Won't you be selling at least part of your portfolio? But none of these companies have sold even a single share. So this is actually what is causing suspicion. In spite of getting 1000% return, why wouldn't you sell even a single share and book profits? So now we will look at other aspect. So we got to know that 75% of the share is held by the promoter, which means these shares do not get traded often. Promoter does not trade his shares like a retail trader who keeps buying or selling the shares. Next, we also saw that these foreign institutions are not selling the shares at all. So what does that mean? Even these shares are not actively traded in the market. So you see most of the companies have public shareholdings of anywhere between 3 to 8%. So just people own just 3 to 8% of Adani Group stocks. So now you tell me, how hard is it to manipulate these 3% of the shares? Only 3 to 8% of the totally available shares get traded in the market. It is not a difficult task to manipulate the prices of these stocks. A huge buying will obviously move the share prices up, and a huge selling will obviously move the share prices down. I am not telling the prices are manipulated, I am just posting a question for you guys. So now we finally come to the conclusive part. So what are the three main questions we can ask? Question number 1. When the fundamentals of the company hasn't improved so much, why has the stock price rallied so much? Is it actually justified? Question number 2. We find many FII companies, around 6 to 7 companies with over 60,000 crores of fund, having more than 97% of their holdings in Adani Group shares. Are these real or legit FII companies? So are these indirect holdings by the promoter of the companies? So what I mean is Adani Group indirectly holding the shares of these companies through these FII companies? And finally, the third question is, when there is little public holding and very less domestic institutional holding, it is not a hard part to manipulate the share prices. So are these share prices actually manipulated, or have they actually gone up due to good fundamentals? So these are the three main questions which we have to. So all I am trying to do here is present you the facts and also give a point of view. So whether you want to invest or not is solely your decision. So you just go through the facts, do some research of your own and consult your financial advisor and do take an investment call. Finally, we come to the last part, that is optionables take on the same. So I want to tell that in optionables we don't own any Adani Group stocks, and we are not big fan of Adani Group stocks also for investment. So now what if you are an investor or a trader? So this is just a personal point of view. If you are an investor, then do your own research and consult your financial advisor and then take your investment call. We personally don't find the corporate governance of Adani that great, so that's the reason we at Optionables have personally not invested. Now, if you are a trader, fundamentals of the company hardly bother you. So all that matters is price action. So if you are a trader, there is no reason why you should not take part in Adani Group stock rally. So you should definitely be taking part in Adani Group stock rally. But if you are an investor, you should definitely be cautious about investing in Adani Group shares. So this is again a personal point of view only. Please do consult your financial advisor before taking any action. So thank you so much for joining, and if you are liking the content in this channel, please do hit the like button, share and subscribe. Thank you so much.